So you messed up. Who hasn't? Instead of wallowing, embrace the mistake as the opportunity it actually is. In this video, I'm sharing a 3-step process designed to help you embrace your failures and unlock your true potential by confronting your reality, evaluating your circumstances and your actions, and planning strategically for your success. That sounds like something that you need to know more about. Keep watching this video. Step number 1 is to learn and accept the truth. I think we all think we know what the truth is, but that's not necessarily what I mean here. What I'm talking about is your reality is actually your truth. So what you have to do is put in the real work to understand your specific truth. Just because something is doesn't mean it has to be. And I think we sometimes get stuck in what was poured into us, and we think that is how we have to go through life. Well, it actually isn't. There is a little bit of work you can do. I happen to call it a personal matrix, which I'll get into in a little bit later. But then also, you've all heard me talk about my personal framework. And your personal matrix actually helps you to identify what your actual strengths are, where your limitations lie, helps you define what it is you really, really want, and it helps you to identify any non-negotiables that could prevent you from getting there. So the first thing I'll say in step number 1 is it is really important for you to learn and accept your specific truth. That is the only truth you need to concern yourself with at this stage, because your reality is your truth. So we've got to get to that reality. So you must understand and ask yourself, why? I was recently talking to my husband about a member of my family who has struggled with some trauma, we'll say past trauma. And it has manifested itself in sometimes controlling ways. And so I said to my husband, this person needs to begin to ask the question, why? Why do I feel this way? Why does this frustrate me so much? Why do I feel like I have to address this? Why do I feel like this is going to eat me up inside? Because what we found inside my program, Project CEO, and we'll get to that in a bit. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But when you do this work and you learn and accept your truth, it goes to understanding that why and answering that question, why. You have to do honest introspection here. This is so important because we have to be honest with what was poured into us in order for us to identify if it's something that we really want to stick around. So in order for us to do that, we've got to be very, very honest with ourselves when we're doing this introspective work. And then also we need to recognize that we are truly as unique as a fingerprint. You've heard me talk about this 1,000 times here on this channel, but you are the sum of your influence, experience, perspective, and passion. That makes you as unique as a snowflake, which is why I always say, be you, be unique, unstoppable, and unafraid, because no one can touch you here. You are as unique as a snowflake. So that's step number 1, learn and accept your truth. Step number 2, learn to evaluate the consequences. Now, my entire program, Project CEO, came about because I recognized that as long as I could handle the consequences of my actions, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted to do. But guess what? That was an epiphany that really lightened my load, and it took the weight off my shoulders for some of the baggage that I was carrying around. But I still had to do the introspective work. I still had to do it. But in doing that introspective work, what I realized is I need to learn how to do what I call manage the volume of my personality. Now, those of you who know me know that I can be a pretty big personality. I do, however, know how to manage the volume of my personality, turning it up or turning it down as necessary. So what does that mean? This is the term that we go into depth inside my program with, but basically it's controlling your behaviors and reactions, good or bad, to influence or improve your ability to manage the expectations of yourself and others. So in step number 2, I want you to learn to evaluate your consequences. And that is really going to take you knowing your true why, learning and knowing and accepting your truth, and understanding the work that you've done to identify what you're willing to deal with, like what consequences can you truly handle, and how do you identify those consequences? How do you evaluate them to know if this is something that you can actually handle? So that is step number 2. But I did mention my program Project CEO, and I wanted to just kind of share with you this idea of an epiphany. Now, I told you that my entire program came about because of this epiphany. I was 30 and it just dawned on me. I was having a lot of trouble. I go through the whole story inside my program, but I was having some challenges, and I really did wake up one day and I was like, okay, wait a minute. I can do whatever I want to. I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want to as long as I can deal with the consequences of my actions. The work came after in identifying exactly what I was willing to do, where I was wanting to draw the line and set the boundaries for myself and for those around me. How was I going to teach people how to treat me and manage their expectations and my own expectations of myself? That all came from that one epiphany that I experienced. It was the catalyst for my program, Project CEO. But the journey that I had as I was figuring this out was life-changing, hands down, okay? And I really wanted other people to experience, which is why I created the program in the first place. It completely transformed the way I navigate life and the way I approach the world. And those who have taken the program have said the same thing. They have really found some sort of an epiphany of their own while taking the program that set them out on a journey that just catapulted them to the success that they have always wanted. And the thing is it's not just about business. The things and tools that you learn inside this program really do prepare you for becoming unapologetically you in whatever setting you need to show up that way in. I really want you to experience this for yourself. So I'm going to add the link to the waitlist for Project CEO down below because it goes so well with this particular video where we're talking about how to embrace your failures, because it's not as easy as it sounds, guys. It really isn't, because you will revert. You will be strong for a little while, but because you've not built a solid foundation, you're not quite going to be able to maintain that. So sometimes you can backslide and it becomes a big thing. And then all of the, the negative self-talk and all of that stuff happens in these situations when you don't have that solid foundation. So I truly do think that it's a good idea for you to grab a spot on the wait list for when we begin to open the doors of Project CEO later this year. I promise you, it's much better for you to be on the list. Okay, so we've talked about that. We've gone through the very first 2 steps. Step number 1, really learning and accepting your truth. Number 2, learn to evaluate your consequences. Now let's get into step number 3, because I'm going to go into a little bit more about this epiphany journey that I actually went on. There are a few steps, but step number 3 is to plan for success. I mean, can you get there any other way? Possibly. But, a goal without a plan is just a wish, but a plan without action is a pipe dream. Okay. So let's get into this plan for success. The very first thing you need to do is document your epiphany and the journey that it took you to solve the problem for yourself. What does that look like? Well, first, you have to understand what caused the epiphany in the first place. For me, it was a personal situation. I had just gotten married. There were a lot of things that sort of poured into my new marriage that was a struggle for me based on my history. It was a wall. It was something that I was butting my head up against that I could not seem to get pushed past. So it was a problem that I had to solve. And so I recognized that problem, and then I said, okay, well, what do I want this outcome to be? What do I want the difference to be? So that was my desire. So that's the next thing in your epiphany journey. And then I had this light bulb moment. I was like, okay, I realized that I'm an adult, and as long as I can deal with the consequences of my actions, I could do whatever I want to do. So I figured that part out. That was my light bulb moment. So now you've hit the wall. You've decided that you want something different, and now you know that, okay, this is the catalyst for my change. Now you've got to create this plan. And this plan is, how are you going to get from where you are, this wall you just hit, this experience that you don't want, that was negative, that you want to get out of? How are you going to get out of it? What is your game plan? Well, before you can come up with that, I think it's a good idea to look ahead to what you want your end game to be. That's what I think we should do next. After we identify what we actually want, where we want to leave, where we want to get away from, then we need to kind of look at what we want the outcome to be. What is the end? Having that end in mind, and then reverse engineering your actions to determine what your steps need to be to actually achieve that particular goal. So that's your plan. Now, once you've achieved that plan, guess what? You are ready. You're ready to get out and spread the word about how you solve this problem for yourself. And that becomes how you too can embrace your failures, because now you got a template, and you know when troubles come, you've got a game plan for how you can overcome those problems, but you begin to look at them a little bit differently because now you know you can solve them, right? So now it's not so much as, uh-oh, I made a mistake, I don't know how to fix it. Instead, it is, okay, slight little detour in where I was trying to go. Now let's reverse engineer to determine the steps that are going to get me out of this hole and are going to help me get exactly where it is that I want to go. So you will have that template for yourself that's going to help you embrace whatever mistake it is you make or whatever failure it is you have, and you can change your mindset. You can change your perspective on that thing to now look at it as the opportunity it is. Because guess what? Every mistake is an opportunity for you to learn. And when you learn, you know that you won't make that mistake again. And you know that you have gotten that much closer to the success that you are looking for. Another thing when it comes to this plan of success is to create for yourself circumstances for optimal success. Now, this is yet another term that I go into depth with inside Project CEO, but I will give you the definition, and that is really knowing what you need depending on your current set of circumstances and your abilities to create the most optimal outcome. It's not going to look the same for everything. Each situation is going to be different. But to create your plan for success, it's important for you to create these circumstances for optimal success. Look at your situation for what it is, and then identify what you need, depending on that set of circumstances, to create the most optimal outcome. It may not always be the outcome you want, but if you've done your best, put your best foot forward, that's all anyone can ask of you, even yourself. So if the outcome isn't exactly what you wanted it to be, at least you know that you've put forth the effort to get the goal. Next, I want you to, under this umbrella of your success plan, I told you there are quite a few steps involved in this last step. So there's some sub-steps, okay? So this third sub-step is to develop a focused vision. And this is an intentional process for evaluating and strategizing that optimizes your ability to stay on task. Okay, so you want to have a focused vision. Next, you want to, I mentioned this earlier, start with the end in mind. You have to be honest with where you are in order to get where it is you really want to go. This is going to help so that you don't miss a step. It's going to help so that you can manage your expectations and the expectations of other people. And also reverse engineering by starting with the end in mind. You can see how everything is going to be connected and develop a manageable process to achieve all of the things. All right. Now, as you embrace your truth, evaluate your decisions, and plan with clarity, you're laying a foundation for real, lasting success. But understanding your internal world is just the beginning. In this next video that I want you to watch, we will be exploring how to harness your personal, social, and professional operating systems to evaluate your life, career, and/or business. True transformations require consistency, authenticity, and actionable goal setting, not just inspiration. When you align who you are with how you operate, you create a powerful framework for sustainable growth and fulfillment. Get ready, guys, to implement strategies that turn your epiphany into execution and help you thrive in every area of your life. Thanks for watching, guys. See you again next week. Bye.